Hello everyone, Daryl here, and we're here today with a problem with the '07 Lincoln Navigator, and this is going to translate directly over to the Ford Expedition since they're twin vehicles, and a lot of other models too for that matter, Fords especially, but any other model that has the newer style systems in it, modern vehicles, had a dead battery. Charged it up, started up, went dead again, had it taken in checked, they said the battery was bad, replaced the battery, and it went dead again. So now I'm thinking to myself, clearly we have a drain somewhere. Something's draining the battery. Check to make sure none of the lights were on, did that right away. Check to make sure none of the lights had been left on, there wasn't anything still turned on. Actually, first thing I do whenever I have a dead battery is put power to the battery, either with jumper cables or a charger, without touching any knobs or switches or anything, and see if there's anything that's still turned on that shouldn't be. And there wasn't anything still on this. From previous experiences, I could say that on these particular vehicles, there's two main culprits that could cause your battery to go dead. They're really obvious and really straight to the point. One of them is the power running boards, which tend to keep trying to cycle themselves when they're stuck. And you can see I keep mine down all the time because they are stuck and not working right. We'll do a video on that someday, show you how to fix those, because I've done it before and it usually lasts about a year when I fix them before they get dirty and clogged up again. The other thing, the most common, or just as common, is the rear window wiper. And what happens is when you turn your rear windshield wiper off, it moves down to this, what they call the parked position. No matter where it's at in the cycle, when you shut it off, after you turn the switch, it's going to continue down until it senses that's in the parked position. Well, when the windshield wiper stops working and it gets seized up, we got to unhook it in the air. See, we can't move it. It's locked up tight. This shaft through here that the wiper arm rides on has become corroded and is stuck. So what happens is the wiper motor, which is down here, is trying to get back to the home position, which is here, but the stuck wiper arm is keeping the motor from coming down this far. So the motor will stop here or here or here, wherever it stops at, and it'll say to myself, I'm not closed yet, I gotta keep closing. And it'll keep trying to close over and over and over again, and that will run your battery down over the course of several days or hours, depending on how good or bad your battery is. So I've already inspected the wiper motor. I know that's fine, it cycles through its cycle just fine and returns where it's supposed to. And now I've just diagnosed the problem as being with the shaft that goes through here is corroded. Had that happen on my 2000 Expedition too, and I had to fix that. So there's two easy quick fixes for it. If it happens to you and you know it happened, you can come back here, you can release the hatch like this so it goes up in the air. That'll allow the motor to pop down to where it's supposed to be, and then you can close the glass. And then the battery won't drain anymore until you accidentally try and turn the rear wiper on again. Or you can pull out the fuse under the dashboard that is for the rear windshield wiper. I don't believe there's anything else on that circuit, so when you pull the fuse out for that, you're not affecting anything else. But I can't stand driving a vehicle without the rear wiper working. All my rear wipers work on my vehicles, they always have, and it just drives me nuts not to be able to wipe the dirt and water off that window while I'm driving. So we're going to fix this today. What we're going to do is we're going to remove what they call, a lot of people, I'm not sure if it's the official name, but I've read about it on the forums, and a lot of people call it the pass-through, where the arm shaft passes through the glass. We're going to remove this whole assembly here, take it in the house. I'll show you how we clean up the shaft and get it back in place the way it's supposed to be. First step is going to be with a flat blade screwdriver pry tool. We're going to get it behind this trim cap here and pop it up and then roll it over out of the way. The wiper arm is held on with this one nut right here. We're going to loosen this nut and then pop the wiper arm off. On the inside we have two 11mm nuts to take off, right here and right here. We've loosened the 13mm nut here. We take that off, and then the arm Sometimes you gotta put the nut back on and give it a light tap with a hammer to pop it loose, but most of the time you can just grab the arm and wiggle it up and down a little. Lift it backwards like this to take the tension off of the glass, rock it back and forth, and it'll usually just pop right off. And now there's still spring tension behind it, so you need to, I'm going to have to put the phone down because you need to lift up on the arm like this while you're getting something behind it here to prop this end off to keep it straight. So it's hard to show you and do it with one hand, but it's pretty easy to do. Lift like this while you're putting a tool behind here to pop it off. All right, we're almost there. Now the wiper's off. There was a little flat washer sitting right on here, so we took the flat washer off. And now if you can see down there, there's a circle clip, they call it, or C-clip. Some people call it E-clip, C-clip, circle clip. It's right here. We just gotta pry that off, pop it off, and then the whole shaft should push out backwards. Now we don't wanna work it too hard, we take a chance of breaking the glass. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna give this a little shot of a good penetrating oil like PB Blaster or liquid wrench. Let it soak in. And we'll clean it up later, it's not gonna hurt anything. Now we're gonna lift that up in the air, and we're gonna get on the arm that actually moves that wiper back and forth, and we're gonna rotate that back and forth with a wrench, or a large pair of pliers actually. Now once we pop off this little rubber trim ring around here with a screwdriver, we use a 22mm wrench, a socket or a big box end wrench, and remove the nut that mounts the shaft to the glass. Now the whole mechanism just drops out from the bottom into your hand. You can see where the shaft comes through at real easy, and the other end of the shaft here. We're going to take that inside where it's warm so we can work it out, and I'll show you how we clean it up. You can see we've got it loose, the whole assembly here. And I've grabbed the arm with a pair of locking vice grip needle nose pliers, and we're working the arm up and down, back and forth to loosen up the shaft. And it's going to be hard to show here, but we're not just trying to loosen it up. Our goal is to actually pull the shaft out of the housing so that we can run a drill or wire brush through there, clean up all the corrosion, lube it with some anti-seize, and put it back together. By pulling and twisting at the same time, you see I've been able to get it loose. One more pull and it'll come right off. All right, we're off now, and hopefully you can see the corrosion on the shaft there from steel rubbing and going through and getting salt and water and different corrosive materials on it over the years. And the hole where it goes through is here. There is a bronze bushing in there, but it didn't seem like it did a lot of good to help things. So what we're going to do is we're going to find I like to use a drill bit. I get a electric drill, cordless electric drill, and a drill bit just a hair smaller that fits in there smoothly. And I'll run it at a slow speed, wiggle it around just a little, and slide it in and out. And then I'll get a wire brush, and I will go around all this with a wire brush until it's really, really clean. Then I'll pack some grease. There's like looks like there's a chamber in here if I'm looking at it right, where it could hold some grease. I'm going to pack some grease into there, and then a final touch of anti-seize on the bushings themselves, on the bronze bushings. And we're going to see how that does. Last time I did this, that was on my expedition, and it lasted over 2 years until I sold the truck. It was still working then. So, you can go out and you can buy a whole new one of these assemblies if you want, and that's guaranteed to work for quite a while. Or if you want to save some money, you can do what I'm doing here. Alright, I'm going to put up a picture here of the whole assembly that I screenshotted from eBay. And they run about from $40 to $60 on eBay for the Dorman brand parts. So if you don't want to take the effort to take it apart, clean it, grease it, put it back together, for about $40, $50, you can buy a new one and just bolt it right in place. Me, I'm a repair-minded person. I'd rather fix the old one and put it back in at least once and give it a try and see if it works. Alright, we've sanded it. I did run a drill bit through here just to make sure there's no big pieces of grit or anything that needed to be powered out. I didn't put too much pressure on the sides because it's a brass insert in there. And then after I got done with the drill bit, I blew it out, and I coiled up a roll of sandpaper, and I ran it back and through there like this, and blew it out again. I took the same sandpaper, wrapped it around the shaft, and dressed up the shaft really nice and smooth and clean, but back and forth, and I test fit it in place, and it fits really great now. You can see, look at that, it's like super easy to move, and there's hardly any lateral play in it. It's nice and snug in there, so I would say it's certainly within a good spec there to still use it. I'm not going to put any grease on it because the grease might attract dirt and corrosion. I'm going to put some anti-seize on there, because I like anti-seize. It's the copper type anti-seize I've got right here, and we're going to put that on there and see how that goes. I'll show you how I reassemble it in just a second. Alright, while you got it apart, you also want to clean these threads up here a little bit with a wire brush possibly, and then lube that up a little bit and make sure the nut goes on nice and easy. And then we're going to put our snap ring back in here. Alright, we're back in place. We got the shaft in. The lock ring is set in perfect place. The shaft and the threads here have been cleaned and lubed. Look how easy that moves. It almost moves by itself. It does actually move by itself. Look at that. Alright, this is going to be great. We're going to go back out. We're going to bolt this back in. When you're putting it back together, there's a lot of play back and forth in how it lines up to make it line up right. So what I do is I set it kind of in the middle, and then I just snug it up just a little bit so it kind of holds, but not real tight. You can still move it if you have to. And then I take it, I'll close the door. Am I missing it? Might be missing it. Let me try adjusting it a little. Move it down a little. Okay, oh, I see. All right. There we go. There we go. You have to put that arm in the right position before it'll hit good enough to close. So now that's closed and everything's lined up, I'll pop the latch, pull it straight up, and do the final tightening because we know everything's in place now where it's going to line up. And remember, you're tightening against glass here, so you don't want to go crazy with anything when you're out here. That's why originally I tried to do the repair while this part was still on the vehicle by working this out and pushing it out, and it was just too dangerous. There was too big of a chance of doing something wrong or impulsive and smashing the back window. So always better to take the whole assembly out, away from the glass, do it that way, and be careful putting it back in because it's going to be tight. All right, we haven't tightened up the center shaft yet, but we tightened up our mounting plate. Look at that, nice and tight. We'll release that. Now we'll tighten up this nut right here, and we'll be just about done. The inner bolts were 11 millimeter. This one's a 22. And again, we're not going to go crazy with it. We're just going to, I mean, you could use a socket, and maybe you should use a socket, a ratchet handle, but I grabbed this big wrench because it was handy and right there, easy to get to. Again, we're into plastic and glass here, so we're not gonna go crazy on the torque here. Just a little bit. Then we're gonna straighten that out, and maybe just a little bit more once we straighten it. I'm gonna take two hands to hold that. There we go. We held it in place and did a final tightening. Now it's nice and snug, and we're good to go. All right, we've pushed the arm on. We've set the arm where we want it level-wise. We're tightening the bolt up with the 13 millimeter socket. Now I'm going to hold this in place while I do the final tightening here. All right, tightening's done. All right, final adjustment. So we had it right level as we wanted it. We watched the stroke to see if it comes all the way over like we want it. Exactly. Look at that. It's perfect. Nice and smooth. Not a bit of hesitation or stickiness to it. And we'll see how long that lasts. That took about an hour. Probably your first time doing it. It might take you an hour and 15 minutes, maybe. Like I say, the part sells if you buy it yourself. If you want to just go ahead and replace the part, it'll take you even less time. The part's about $45 to $50. if you would have taken this to a shop, I don't imagine you would have gotten out of there for less than $175 or $200 to get that fixed. And if you were taking it to a dealer, who knows, maybe $200, $250. Just guessing, but I think that's a pretty good estimate. You can do it yourself, save some time and money, and have that sense of accomplishment. I've got a lot of videos out here showing you how to do things, how to save money, cut a few corners, and how to do things in a more professional way if that's what you need to do too. So keep watching, click those thumbs up buttons, subscribe to my channel if you get a chance. I really appreciate all the support. Have a great day. Bye for now. When diagnosing a problem, don't be jumping to conclusions and thinking it's something terrible and awful that went bad, like your power inverter center or your a short in a main wiring harness. Look for the simple things first. Look for an on light that's stuck on, it didn't turn off. Look for an open door, the hatchback, the running boards. Ask yourself, is there anything on the vehicle that was working and now isn't? That was the first thing I said to my wife. This is the car she drives most of the time. I said, is there anything that's not working on the car now, or is there any changes? And she said, well, the rear window wiper doesn't work anymore. And I said, well, there you go. Then I knew that was a problem because I'd had that problem before in a different vehicle. So